With Mitt Romney having decided not to run for president for a third time, he's the one person we absolutely know will not be the 2016 Republican nominee. Or do we?
Jeb Bush has to win New Hampshire. It's a must-win. It's a must-win for him because he will lose Iowa. And you got to win one of the, particularly if you're considered to be something of a front runner and everything else. I'll go further. If Jeb Bush loses New Hampshire, they'll get Mitt Romney back in the race.
Boy,
You got it on tape.
That was James Carville at the Newseum in Washington, D.C. last night, part of the celebration of the New Hampshire primary centennial, co-sponsored by Bloomberg Politics, naturally. Whatever you think of the Raging Cajun's prediction, it raises a subject worthy of discussion. Do we basically know, Mark, the Republican field at this point, although no one's officially in? Do we know the shape of it, or are there surprise entries yet to come?
If Jeb Bush performs politically as well as he's performing in finance behind the scenes, I think we know the Republican field. There are three people looming out there, I think, waiting to see if Bush fails politically this year, or as James Carville said, next year if he loses Iowa and New Hampshire. One is Romney, who I was amazed when he got out of the race, decided not to run. People just said, oh, he's done. No, he's still looming.
He left the door open. Even in that statement, he left the door a little open.
It's back to plan A. If the party comes to him.
Right.
Look, if Rick Santorum wins Iowa and Rand Paul wins New Hampshire, the establishment's going to say we need help.
Possible.
The other two guys out there, John Kasich, who's going to South Carolina, and Mike Pence, governor of Indiana, who did an interview with George Will, making it clear those two guys would like to be president. If there's an easy path, if Jeb Bush fails, they'll run.
I think, if you look at those guys, I think I have both Kasich and Pence, I think, I don't even think it's a matter of Bush, I think, failing. Look, there's I think, Kasich in particular is now, I believe, still is thinking about it quite seriously. As we talked about yesterday, headed to South Carolina. I know money matters a lot to him, and if it looks like Bush is racking up a lot of dollars, he might not think there's space for him. But, we said a number of times the last couple of weeks, there's still, with all of Bush's fundraising strength, there's still a lot of problems for him lurking in the polling that we've seen so far in these early states. And the question that James is pointing to is, the question again and again, where is Jeb Bush the front runner? What's the state he's obviously going to win? I know you think he's going to win them all and run the table.
I don't think he'll win them all, but he can win them. He can win any of the four early states.
He could.
The thing about Kasich,
I'm not sure that's true about Iowa.
The thing about Kasich and Pence is they're both still ambivalent. And I don't see how someone ambivalent gets into a field where people are hiring staff and raising money unless the party somehow begs them to run. And as talented as those two guys are, I don't see begging from anybody, even donors.
I'm begging John Kasich to run. I'm begging him right now. I beg you, John Kasich. I beg you to run. It would be fantastic if you ran. There's a camera I'll take right now.
The other thing about Romney that's interesting to me is, if people say, well, he's going to get in if Bush, as Carville said, he'll get in after New Hampshire. The problem for Romney is New Hampshire's his best state.
Right.
So if he gets in after
New Hampshire, you got to go to South Carolina where he lost him to Newt Gingrich by 40 points.
So I don't quite get that timing.
It's not a good sequence for him.
I don't quite get that timing. But James is smart, and again, I think he's put his finger on something. Look, as bullish as I am on Jeb Bush's chances, I totally can see a scenario where he collapses on the launch pad and turns out not to be able to do this.
If he doesn't win, again, I don't disagree with you. He could win. I don't think he probably can win Iowa. But if he loses, he does really badly in Iowa, doesn't win New Hampshire, doesn't win South Carolina, then you're heading into suddenly getting into some big states. And that's, I think, when the establishment, as it did in 2012, will start to look for, hey, we got to get somebody else in this thing. If that happens.
If Jeb Bush wins Iowa caucuses, you got to buy me for the plane to New Hampshire, one of those rolls, those Maki rolls with pork cutlet.
If Jeb Bush wins the Iowa caucuses, I'll buy you a plane to take you to New Hampshire. How about that?